Those who stop trusting God as the giver of power and suddenly gives men the place of God, with the belief that their ascension to power now depends on men, often lose sight of humility and faith. When individuals place their hope entirely in human influence, political connection, or powerful figures, they forget that human authority and influence are temporary and limited. Such mindset breeds desperation, flattery, and compromise as people begin to do anything necessary to please those they believe control their destiny and oxygen. In the process, integrity, principle, and faith are often sacrificed in the pursuit of personal favors and not the interest of the people. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, peace-loving people of Plateau State. Glad to welcome you to yet another fascinating episode of your number one dynamic socio-political breakfast tonic and conscience-pricking program on radio. It is Political Update, coming to you live on Silverbird, reading 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Today is the 12th day of March, the year 2026. My name is Pam Dunquiz, and of course, the King of Boys, Ambassador Bello Lukman, is already seated to take us down our destination of 12 noon with political analysis. Bello, good morning, and somehow you confused a lot of people this morning in the studio because they were wondering if we already have a guest waiting for Bello Lukman to come in. Little did they know that it was indeed Bello Lukman. You're looking good. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Palm Don Quiz is also part of the characteristics of radio, even though nobody's seeing you out there, but then try your best to look good so that at least psychologically, socially, and mentally you'll also be very, very tact as far as your cognitive capacity is concerned. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, egalitarian passengers that listen to us out there with better breath. Special good morning to the two musketeers in the house who go, we call him Fine Boy Journalist, and Smokey David Friday. Good morning to you.
All right, Bello, quickly, before we say any other thing, security of life and property is always the priority of this station and of this platform, because without peace, unity, harmony, and tranquility, Bello, we cannot even be in the studio this morning. Unfortunately, we don't know how many times we're going to have these attacks left, right, and center that are carried out with impunity and without any hope in sight that we are actually giving these people a run for their weapons. What we have this morning, as reported by one of the newspapers, is the effect that 15 people again have been killed in several villages in Katsina State here in Nigeria. And you ask yourself the question, what actually is the priority of our leaders? Are we saying that all the killings that happened about 2 weeks ago in Borno State, where we had to lose a lot of Nigerians, and also across the length and breadth of the north central, the northeast, the northwest, the southeast, the south-south, and the southwest, do we need a prophet to tell us that indeed this country is bleeding and something needs to be done, or we are just concerned primarily about what becomes our fate as politicians in 2027?
I think what is lacking are just the three major acts of war, and that is intelligence, reconnaissance, and vigilance. Surveillance also, because when we also really ensure that at least you are proactive and you are taking this war to these bad people, you will also know when they are moving. And I always ask the question, why are we not also using satellite imaging to know when these people are moving from where they are actually coming to attack? Because they are not coming from the sky. They're coming from forest. This forest belongs to Nigeria. They are territories of Nigeria. But then because we've not been able to get our vigilance right, we've not been able to get our intelligence right, we've not been able to get our reconnaissance right, that's why people, after fasting for the day, in Musawa local government area of Katsina State, in Dagduma local government area of Katsina State, will actually sit down in front of their home, probably because of heat, and probably because of fatigue, probably because of tiredness, probably because of discomfort. But then their guests would definitely be the angels of death in the name of bandits. They were able to come to Dandume and Musawa local government area, and the areas they attacked, Dansoda and Jikamshi communities, where they were able to kill 11 people in the first community they attacked, and they came around 8 p.m. And many residents were sitting outside their homes and under trees, relaxing when the government suddenly stormed the community, firing sporadically. And people ran in different directions to escape. Guess what? This particular bandit, they already understand how people actually run. So they were firing directly at the people that were running. And that was where they killed 11 people, and they also injured 13. The second day, Wednesday, yesterday, the entire 13 have been buried. So you could see that it just appear as if nothing has happened. When you go to that village today, maybe what will preoccupy the mind of that local government chairman will be 2027. Maybe he will already be thinking about a rally or probably a workshop or a seminar for the city boy movement that will also guarantee, for example, his own survival, the governor's survival, and the president's survival in 2027. So between these priorities of protecting life and property and the 2027 election, which should be prioritized, I thought we should be able to address security first, because we need to cross the bridge before we get to the other side of the divide. But when we are already thinking about getting to the other side of the divide, you remember in 2025, I said we cannot talk about 2027 without talking about 2025.
Sure.
We cannot talk about 2027 without talking about 2026. That 2026 that we thought would never come is already here.
Sure.
But how prepared did we prepare ourselves in terms of intelligence, in terms of reconnaissance, in terms of surveillance, in terms of vigilance, in terms of our military, in terms of their welfare, in terms of the perception, in terms of their ideology? All this put together will have also really meant that we actually mitigating against this gargantuan problem that has become a very big elephant for us in the room. Again, this bandit again went to another place, Jekamshi in Musawa, that's crisscrossing two different local governments. But because of their knowledge of the terrain, the same bandits left the first village, they now crisscross to another local government. Imagine if at all we are having a kind of a nexus, or we're having a collaboration among the security in this local government. They would have known their movement, they would have known where to actually go and meet them, so that they wouldn't be able to go to the next local government, Musawa local government. And in this Musawa local government, the police confirmed 3 deaths. But residents said 4 victims lost their lives and the 4 victims were buried yesterday. How many more Nigerians will be buried before we take this particular issue of security as a top priority? Some tourists come to Lagos and they portray that particular perception as Nigeria. Fantastic. I wish every other state can also be like Lagos, where you see tourists coming to that particular part of town, telling the entire world that they told me not to come to Nigeria, and I am in Nigeria right now. I am in Lagos. That's the way they will call it. And nothing has happened to me. This is 12 a.m. But I don't want to tell him that please don't go to Katsina, because it will mean that we are also demarketing our country. But can that same person go to Katsina at 12 a.m.? Musawa local government? Can that person go to Niger State at Rafi local government, Munya local government, Chirono local government, Kaenji Lake Chad, and Bogu local government? Can that same person do that same video around that particular places where security are the ones that will tell you don't go past this area? I always reference what the owner of Hill College, Haja Nafisa, told me, that she actually missed our program because of the fact that she traveled for one particular reason around that vicinity, and the police were the ones that told her, please, it's 6 p.m. You can't continue on this journey. So if the police are capitulating, the soldiers are capitulating, the DSS is surrendering. You remember when the DSS also brought out an internal memo and they were advising their own staff on how to navigate and gravitate during this particular perilous time of insecurity. When you are traveling, don't wear the best of your clothes. When you are, so we are already capitulating. Don't wear expensive wristwatch. That will give you away as a potential victim of kidnap. Are we not supposed to be providing solution? Are we not surrendering if the internal memo from that particular organization is to the effect of surrender and capitulation? Then me, you, Ugo and Tini, that don't even have anybody or any training in security, then what are we going to be doing?
Bello, I remember very well sometime in 2017 or thereabout, a statement was credited to the president then, now of blessed memory, that what the terrorists are doing now is the last kick of a dying horse. Bello, can we put it in context and begin to count the number of people that have been killed in Katsina, Zamfara, Kebbi, Sokoto, Plateau, Benue, Niger, Kwara, Edo, and different parts of the country? Will you describe that as a kick of a dying horse, or that is a kick of a horse that probably was just re-energized to come back and cause mayhem and chaos. And whenever we speak like this, people don't just want to listen. People just want to hear, because hearing is different from listening. When you listen, you make sense of the whole thing. But when you just hear, it enters through this ear and disappears through the other ear. Bello, one would have thought that by now, if not for anything, the National Assembly should have called all the service chiefs, including the paramilitary,
Yes,
those that are involved in giving or guaranteeing the security of every Nigerian. But maybe they are not really concerned. Why? Because they have their bulletproof cars. But for how long will you be in that bulletproof car? Because whether you like it or not, you will still come back to the people. This is 2026, and you come down from that bulletproof car. It's not inside the bulletproof car you're going to campaign to tell them to vote for you. Now, we ask the question, how many Nigerians today are to speak in the National Assembly? Because they are the ones that make laws. And if something is going wrong, they are the ones that will always call, make laws, or call to order, including the executive. Call them to order. Things are getting worse. Or are we saying that we don't care about the lives of Nigerians? All we care about is what becomes of our fate in 2027. Because the actual concern now should not be the protection of life and property, but rather let's look at who do we use to ensure that our votes, even when we don't win, they should protect us by all means. According to somebody, don't tell me that the election was rigged. Rig it and let's meet in court.
no quiz. It will interest you to note that last administration you mentioned, of the 17 military and paramilitary chiefs that existed, including fire service, customs, immigration, and all these paramilitary,
Road safety and the rest of
civil defense, road safety, 14 out of the chiefs were from the north.
Okay.
But the north still retained its position as the most dangerous part of Nigeria. So what is that telling you? The moment you remove efficiency, you remove fecundity, you remove brilliance, you remove efficacy, you remove sterility, and what you have is sycophancy. What you have is nepotism. What you have is patronage. Yes, he was part of the people that we went round the length and breadth of this country during the election. So it is time for us to pay him back. Whether he is actually a square peg in a square hole, it doesn't matter. That is exactly the type of situation we find ourselves. Can all the 14 service chiefs, including the paramilitary, civil defense, fire service, road safety, immigration, that were raining riots during Muhammadu Buhari, can they also tell us their scorecard in relation to exactly what is happening today? And that's why some of us are even insisting that even now that we are still seeing some scintilla of nepotism, especially in the economic team of this present administration. Don't we learn from the past? If 17 is the number of security, paramilitary, and others that we are having, and 14 were from the north, and the north is still this dangerous, is still this hazardous. In fact, the whole situation is getting worse. Because Kwara, in the last administration, was peaceful to an extent. Today, Kwara has joined the list of states that are also perilous in nature. The Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, during Goodluck, was a safe haven. During Buhari, it became a boys' quarters for bandits. In 2018, that particular road became the most dangerous road and is the most shortest route, 140 kilometers, but it became the most unsecured shortest road you can ever have, that is close to the city center, that is close to the federal capital territory, and that is also linking the old capital of the north to the entire capital of the nation. But that became a very, very precarious and perilous road that so many Nigerians could not pass through. Now again, Pablo Quiz, let it be on record that we did not keep quiet, especially with the economic team of the president, that most of them, they are not just coming from the southwest, but they are all coming from one particular part of the southwest.
Sure.
You are talking about Oyetunde Oladimeji Ojo. That is the in-law and the husband of Shade Tinubu, the Yaloja of Nigeria. He is heading the Federal Housing Authority. Wale Edu is the Minister of Finance. Cardoso is the CBN Governor. Zach Adedeji is the Chairman of Federal Land Revenue Service. Adegboyega Oyetola is the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy. Bosun Tijani is Minister of Communication. Dele Alake is the Solid Mineral Minister. Adelabu Peklemes is the Power Minister. Kayode Peter is the MD Bank of Industry, the Minister of State for Finance. Somebody else was occupying that seat. Ngozi something. Now we have again replaced with what is actually predictable. At the end of the day, Pablo Quiz, you will actually agree that the president is acting in concurrence with the condemnable precedent that was actually set by his predecessor, former President Muhammadu Buhari, who perfected nepotism, who turned nepotism to an art of governance. And this offends diversity. This offends federal character. It is insensitive in politics. It gives impression that others do not actually matter. And when one gathers his clan to govern, then other perspectives that are also critical in good governance are glossed over. Once a system runs on the basis of a confederacy, or what you call parapo, then psychophancy becomes the norm. Now, even with all this, you will have thought that our debt will be reducing. But our debts are rising. You will have thought that the capital component in our budgets, because of the technocracy and the ability and agility of the people and the team, is the reason why they were actually given that position in the first place. But do you know that the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Health rather, said out of the 200 and something billion that was budgeted for capital component in the last budget, only 30 something million was released? And yet, we are still thinking that no, this is the best thing for us. Until and unless we start looking at things from the prism of objectivity. Who says that someone from Plateau cannot occupy the CBN governorship in Nigeria? Who says that somebody probably from Inewi cannot become the Minister of Finance successfully, and he'll bring his own idea, they'll crisscross and fertilize with the others, and that's exactly how nations are built.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Before we take the first story on the Punch, Bello, there's a man that actually was born on the 12th of March 1965 in Zaria, Usasa. He actually is an alumnus of the University of Jos.
Yes.
And also one-time chairman, Mango local government, and also elected in the 2023 elections to emerge, or who emerged rather, as the executive governor of Plateau State, Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang. And if you ask me, Bello, there are things that you cannot take away completely from the policies of His Excellency Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang, which is focused on peace, inclusive governance, infrastructural development, economic revitalization, and security. If you ask me, Bello, when you go to, because security is a very vast word, a very big word. When you talk about security, it could be health security, could be food security, it could be educational security, and the rest of them. Bello, if you go to the Ministry of Tourism and Hospitality, you don't need a prophet to tell you. Whether you are blind, you will feel it. Whether you are deaf, you will see it. That indeed, this administration actually knew what they were doing from the beginning to appoint the right people in the right place to bring the right result for the state. When you go to Wildlife Park, when you go to Amusement Park, when you go to Hill Station Hotel, when you go to Plateau Hotel and other tourist sites in the state, especially hospitality businesses, you realize that indeed the right investment is being carried out, and in little or no time we will begin to see the achievement. But one big thing, Bello, that I stand to be corrected, that the governor did not toe the path of other people, was that immediately he came in, unlike other administrations, you start probing your predecessor. I didn't hear that. I didn't see that. To me, it is a way to say that let old things pass away, and now new things should be the watchword of everybody. And I think that alone should be given to the government.
Quiz, we want to say very big congratulations to Governor Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang. Some of us are actually birds as far as the social media is concerned. We always put our ears to the ground, and if you want to see the popularity of somebody, just try to put something on the social media about the person. Go on the social media and go and measure the perception of the people about the governor. Then you will know that if the governor had gone to any other political party, he would have still had a very high traction in terms of popularity, because the people of Plateau seem to love what exactly the governor is doing. But so many people have said that some of the development are concentrated in the town. Most of the villages, they also need to feel this time is now mantra of the governor. And talking about the time is now, we hope that the commissioners the ministries, the department, the agencies, they understand the philosophy, they understand the blueprint, they understand the doctrine, so that they can translate it and domesticate it in their various ministries. One thing you cannot take away from the governor is his penchant for cultivating and identifying young technocrats. They will actually bring their energy to bear. Look at what the man in JMDB was able to do. Some of us, we chose not to follow through terminus because of chaos. But today, you know that that's our new route. Because at least now, you're sure that at least your car can maneuver around that place.
Because there's sanity.
Thanks to sanity that was brought to that place by architect head bankers. So if somebody is a square peg, get that person to do the job. Sometimes you just close your ears to criticism, so that I know, I've never talked to Bankert about this, but I know that at the time he was picked, so many of the older generation will have wished that at least the old patronage and the old way of also bringing people that are already having gray hair to that particular place is what will actually happen. Is it the transportation ministry you want to talk about that it has not been revitalized? Even the chairman, you will discover that most of them are young people.
Yeah.
This is actually a departure from the past. Is it Dr. Bernard Akali you want to talk about? And let's ensure that at least the people we are actually giving these responsibilities, there is also a feedback mechanism. And I think that that is my own takeaway from the governor. He knows how to identify young people, not just young people, but young productive people. So indeed, let him continue on that trajectory. And we say very big congratulations. We pray that Plateau will continue to flourish. I just opened Daily Trust and I say this is what I want to be seen. I saw about 5 pages of the governor's congratulations, because we don't want the governor to only remain as a local champion. Let people from outside Plateau, for example, open the paper and know that indeed we have a governor on the Plateau. So indeed we say very big congratulations to Governor Caleb Manasseh Mufwan, who will have known that that young man that was removed as a chairman in Mangu local government will make a return. They call it Ipadabo Abidjan. When the warrior, when the actor return. So who can stop that kind of movement?
All right, Your Excellency, we congratulate you, and today you are 61 years old, and we wish that you use this week actually to perfect the birthday gift to the people of Bassa, because till now we've not seen anything started on that road, but we know that probably mobilization process is ongoing, and we hope to see something started on that road. And I think that would be one of the best birthday celebration you will give to the people of Bassa.
Every day I will just become angry and decide to go and see Pam in Bassa. After an hour I come back.
You take your flight back.
I'm telling you. But when you think about the horrid nature of that road, the shambolic nature of the road, the deplorable nature of the road, psychologically you're already defeated.
Sure.
Because you start thinking, okay, I'm fasting now. Is it that tortuous kind of journey I still want to add to my already state?
And when you return, you have to go to see the mechanic.
Exactly.
All right, let's take the first story on the Punch newspaper. Monopoly fears rise as Dangote controls 14.4 trillion naira petrol market. And of course, Bello, whether we like it or not, on this platform, we don't just do innuendos or conjectures. Rather, we look at issues based on what is actually obtainable and what has been on ground for the time past. And we are not here to allow emotions to actually control the better part of our reasoning. According to the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, the federal government had issued about 83 refinery licenses in total to different companies. Now there are 3 steps that you must follow before you start operating your refinery. There's what is called the LTE, license to establish. You start planning for your refinery. Once you plan, that step by step will be monitored to ensure that the first step has been jumped, or the first hurdle has been jumped. The next one is going to be license to construct, LTC. After everything has been certified, you go to the next step of constructing. After the construction, the authorities will ensure that it is actually fit to start what is called refining of petroleum products. That's the last stage, which is called LTO. But then, Bello, out of all this, according to what the authorities are giving us, as of 2025, the figures approximately indicate that 40 licenses to establish were actually issued. Then we had 30 to construct, they were approved.
Yes.
Then at the end of it, out of that 30, only 28 had the license to operate. And not to say that we already have 8 functional refineries that are working, no, including our non-functional refineries are captured under this 8.
Yes.
And out of these 8, all of them rather put together, they can actually refine 974,000 barrels per day. But when you remove Dangote out of it, who has 650,000 capacity, then you share the rest to the other ones, it tells you that indeed what these other 6 or 7, as the case may be, refined in a day is just an infinitesimal figure, because just 324,000 barrels per day. So if you ask yourself the question, who is actually not ready to give a challenge? Even the government should be able to rise up and tell Nigerians that while Dangote is complementing the efforts of the government, we already have our refineries that are functioning. But go back to history, Bello, and check the amounts that have been spent both on the staff that are not working anything, the refineries that are not producing anything that belongs to the government. What has been spent could have built another refinery for us, just like Dangote did.
Chris, 92% of what we are actually utilizing in the country right now is coming from one source, Dangote Refinery. And local refinery supplies about 36.5 million liters of petrol in February 2026 alone. All came from where? From Dangote. And the people complaining right now are the workers under NUPENG. Some economists too are complaining, because you have a situation where the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has also not issued any import license for any importation to happen in the year. Pablo Quiz, why do we need to import petrol? Is it not when there is a shortfall in supply? But if, for example, we're getting the requisite supply, what is the point in this whole thing? Are we not supposed to also be supporting our own local industry like Dangote? But on the other side, what happens, for example, if Dangote Refinery, which is a mechanical refinery, has a fault? Are we going to be having a shock supply as far as the country is concerned?
Certainly.
Because we must be able to be all encompassing in looking at this particular issue. There's what is called import substitution. That is exactly what those people are afraid of. Then there's what is called market speculation. And then regulatory communication must be predictable. That is what they are also saying. So can we look at these issues in a very objective way, not the selfish way? Because every Nigerian thinks about his investment, and then he thinks that he is an analyst that should tell us exactly what to do. But we are the ones that are the mediators. We are the arbiters as far as this particular issue is concerned. We give you the left hand side, we give you the right hand side, then we allow you to make your own decision as far as this issue is concerned. Where are the other people, just like Dangote, that were issued license to go and produce refineries? If Dangote can painstakingly, committedly go ahead to bring about this refinery today, are we supposed to dissuade him, or we are supposed to persuade him to expand? Because if you look at the body language of NUPEC, you look at the body language of NLC, they prefer the importation to continue than for Dangote Refinery to be a monopolist. If Pamdun Quiz, Dangote's monopolist will ensure supply of products, in as much as it is produced here in Lagos, Ibejuleki to be precise, and that has made Bua, Abu Sama Rabiu, to also go to the south to go and establish his own refinery that will soon be coming. He said 2026, it will actually come into fruition, and we are in 2026 now.
Healthy competition.
That's what we want. But when you are telling me no, the alternative is for us to continue to import, I'll tell you no. As a patriot, as a nationalist, I'm not seeing this as a viable option, because the more importation we are having, the more jobs we are creating for those countries that we are importing from. But at least with this Dangote facility, over 100,000 Nigerians, directly or indirectly, are being impacted. So that way, to me, is patriotism. That way, to me, is nationalism. Whatever the disadvantage of the issue is, we can always address. Can we also ask ourselves, 2nd of August 1990 is a date that so many Nigerians have forgotten, but it will have been a date for remarkable change for a nation, the way China also had their own remarkable change. Guess what happened? That was the day the Gulf War started in this world. And that was the day that Saddam Hussein decided to occupy Kuwait, because they were owing Kuwait. And Kuwait's petrol is one of the finest in the entire world. And America as an ally mobilized about 33 other countries, and they entered that particular zone to go and chase away Saddam and his allies from that place. So the Strait of Hormuz and the major suppliers of petrol in the world were no longer bringing petrol from Qatar, from Jordan, and all other parts. Nigeria became the main place where all of them were coming. At the end of the day, we supplied the world because we were producing at optimal level as at that time. We supplied the world to the extent that we made a profit of $12 billion. And I asked the question, Pius Okibo, he was the one that actually investigated this issue when it came up, and he said that $12 billion is missing. Where is the $12 billion?
Big question.
We also had our oil boom during Gowon, 70 to 73. At least we were able to see some of the things that they used the money for. We had another oil boom when China was trying to fight with the United States in terms of energy. So all of them were coming to this part of the world for energy. The United States was coming to Nigeria for energy. So in the year 2000, we had another oil boom. Petrol was selling at above $100 per barrel during Obasanjo's time. And that was why they had the Sovereign Wealth Fund. It crisscrossed to Yar'Adua. It crisscrossed to Jonathan. At the end of the day, can we beat our chest to say this is exactly what we've been able to use these monies for? I told you that when I went to Saudi Arabia, they will give you food. And on the package of the food, they will tell you that this food was supplied by the conveyors of the two holy mosques. And they would also write it there with the support of Aramco. What is Aramco? That is their own NNPC. So if they can have enough to the extent of even giving to people that are coming to their country, what do we have that we are doing for our people? Talk more of even thinking about other people. I told you that I did not pay a dime when I was sick and I went to the hospital. And my drug was customized with my name written in English and Arabic. The carton of the drug, you would think they have one production unit where immediately you are telling them your name, everything is computerized. The drug came out with your name written on the carton of the drug. What else would you want to see in the country? Pablo Quiz.
Let's pay some bills. When we return, we'll still talk more about this issue. This is Political Update. Stay here. Alright, welcome from the break. Still Political Update going on live on Silverbird, reading 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. Today is the 12th day of March, the year 2026. And also, we cannot forget in a hurry that it is the birthday of our own governor, the Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang, and it will not be out of place in the course of the program for you to actually send your messages or make calls to wish him well, because these are the things that keep our leaders motivated, especially when they are doing well.
Yes.
It's only when they are not doing well you hear us shouting and yelling, but when they are doing something, we look at the merits, put them on a scale and see which one is carrying more weight. Bello, whether we like it or not, when you look at what Kim Botcher is doing, you must give it to the governor. When you look at what Barrister Peter Nyamgei is doing in the Ministry of Land Survey and Town Planning, whose birthday is also tomorrow. You cannot take it away and to give it to them. And also different ministries and agencies are really doing well. But then, I like Oliver Twist, will always ask for more.
I agree totally.
Bello, back to the issue before we went on that break.
Yes.
I think we need to be very sincere to ourselves, as well as ensure that we bring in, we prioritize rather patriotism than emotional proclivities. Why am I saying this? In other countries, Bello, when subsidy is removed and is said to be taken to another place, you should be able to see it. You don't even need a prophet to tell you that, yes, subsidy has been removed from the payment of petroleum, but now we are seeing it in the energy sector, where electricity is guaranteed. But today, what do we have? If at all subsidy is removed from petroleum, we should be able to see it in the education sector, But what do we see today? Students are paying, or parents rather, are paying through their nose. Some people, in fact, as I told you last week, if not because of the support we are getting from people that believe in this dream that we are embarked on, which is the outreach of my birthday outreach. If not, one student would have actually been at home now, just like his elder sister, who could not actually raise less than 10,000 naira to register as a den for junior WAEC. Today she has left school completely and go to schools below today and ask the question. Many of our secondary schools, a reasonable percentage of students are not registering for WAEC or junior WAEC. Why? Because parents cannot afford it. So where is the subsidy going to? Can we see roads being constructed across the length and breadth of the country? If we don't see that, Nigerians begin to ask questions, but we must give it to Dangote. Why? Because right from day one, Dangote has proven beyond reasonable doubt, and if somebody wants to challenge him, build your own refinery and sell it at a lesser price. But whenever this man is trying to bring support to Nigerians, and we see people that because of their personal and selfish interest want to bring down the name of the man and say that the man is trying to be monopolistic. Can you build a refinery? If you build it today and the government don't give you crude, then we'll bring the matter here.
During the last Christmas, you remember that Dangote reduced his price.
Yes.
He said, I'm reducing this price because I know that the volume of travelers will be high. That is a patriot. It's not a religious bigot that will say, no, I am a Muslim.
So why should I?
The people that are traveling are Christians. So it's not my business. No, it is your business, because one way or the other, directly or indirectly, to definitely afflict and affect what you're doing. So we love it when people are that patriotic. If not because of the global market and the crude oil that is needed for production in his refinery, he cannot get enough. I'm assuring you that this man wouldn't have increased the price of his own petrol
at all, because he's still importing crude from other countries.
His antecedent and precedent is anything to go by. You will agree with me that he would have loved our petrol to be cheapest.
Sure.
And that's why I'm urging the federal government to have an arrangement that will be internal between them and Dangote, because in a month they need 14 cargoes to be able to meet up with the demand of even the local production. But we are giving them only 5 for the crude for Naira sale. So where will the shortfall come from? Of course, it will be from abroad. And the Strait of Hormuz, that is actually a water channel where you have petrol, you have liquefied natural gas, you have diesel, and other products pass through, is already affected by this war in the international system. So of course, once there is scarcity, the prices of everything goes up. So we don't even know where he's even sourcing the crude. Last week there was no production. They had to close shop because they are processing crude. They don't have crude. So what would they be doing? Would they just be pouring water inside the place so that they can just seem like they are working?
Bello, unfortunately, or fortunately as the case may be, we already had a balance of transportation on the plateau.
Yeah.
Why? Because if you are not so much in a hurry, you always wait for the metro bus.
Exactly.
If you are in a hurry, you look for an alternative to get to your destination. Yes.
Despite the fact that he is challenged.
Yeah, visually
impaired. But Ayuba will wait patiently at the bus stop for the bus to come.
Take him down to Foreign Gaga.
Is the comfort from one part of the state. In fact, do you know that when I went to Kuru, when I went to Vom, I didn't even know that the metro bus gets to that place.
They started passing through that.
I saw them.
Now, Bello, what is the problem now? As we speak this morning, when I come to work on a daily basis, I drop around Peru, and I see how people struggle to get keke. But as at day before yesterday and today, the number has drastically reduced. Keke are looking for passengers, and people are looking at the fact that because money, the price of oil, petrol has increased, and transport has been increased, because you don't expect them to buy fuel at a very high price and still maintain the same. They are not for that Christmas. Now people are saying that, okay, as much as we sympathize with you, but there's nothing we can do because the purchasing power is not as much as you think. Go to the metro bus terminals today, and you will see the crowd that are patiently waiting because they know that with 200 naira you can go to a place where ordinarily you will use 500 or 1000 naira, as the case may be. And people are now going. In fact, the metro buses are becoming short in supply, if you ask me, because more people are going for the metro bus. Now, what do other countries do, or the International Energy Agency are planning to do? They are planning to release at least 400 million barrels of petroleum product, and 1 barrel of petroleum product contains 159 liters. So you do the multiplication and you get your result. But then below, as you rightly said, let's look at the challenge at the Strait of Hormuz. It's not just about the fire that is coming now, because Iran has major control, because that passage is actually within their jurisdiction.
Of course, they are controlling about 69 or 70.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So now, the worst part of it is that Iran is already putting mines underwater. In case any ship want to pass there that they did not give the go-ahead, everything will be destroyed. So you can see double jeopardy. Before now, it was just about bullets and maybe missiles passing through. But now there are mines under. And you know what mines do? They can destroy everything completely. And there's nothing you can do. And imagine mines underwater.
Their ship was sunk by United States in Jordan.
I think yesterday or the day before yesterday.
About 3-4 days ago. So that tells you that the war is beyond what we are also thinking. They want to go political. They want to go social,
economical.
They want to go economical, they want to go military,
psychological even.
Because to them, the killing of their own leader is just the last kick of the dying horse that would actually make them to respond. And that's why they started firing at allies, including even Saudi and other allies of United States, hitting some of these particular facilities that belong to United States of America, knowing fully well that from where they are disadvantaged to launch an attack directly to United States of America.
All right.
That's how United States fights war.
Yeah.
They will always look for an ally where they can launch from that particular country to your country. They hardly launch from their country directly.
All right, let's pay some bills. We'll be right back. This is Political Update. Stay here. Welcome from the break. Still Political Update going on live on Silverbird Radio 93.7 FM here in the city of Jos. And of course, we're still looking at issues that are trending on our local newspapers, but then we try as much as possible to also touch on issues that affect us, even happening at the international level. And that's why we're touching on the issue of the war in the Middle East that has actually affected almost everything. As we're speaking right now, fuel that was selling at 875 naira at the filling station now goes for as high as 1,350, in some places 1,400, 1,450. And who will be the person to actually pay for all this? Is the average Nigerian. And you ask yourself the question, of all the resources that God has blessed us with in this part of the world, what is the average Nigerian benefiting from? We live in a part of the world where somebody who just came out from the gutters suddenly become stupendously rich because the people decided that no, we trust this man, you can go and represent us, speak on our behalf, bring the dividends of democracy. But what do we see today? We see communities where people sleep not with any of their eyes closed, but rather lying down and waiting for the unfortunate incident that might likely happen, where marauders, killers, terrorists come, chase them out of their homes, and even take control of these places. And we are saying this morning, that we must rise up to do the needful, because even in those countries below where this war is going on, go and check. In fact, if you go there, you will discover that life is still very, very okay in some places. Why? Because they already have plans that in times of trouble, this is what we plan for and this is what we release out. But here, we are not even at war, but Nigerians are passing through hell. So imagine that this war happening in the Middle East is happening and Nigeria is directly affected. Probably will have gone on a lockdown.
Well, we cannot even face ragtag groups that are actually operating around the length and breadth of our own country. I just hope that indeed, like you said, we don't also have a very catastrophic incident that might also really lead to a lot of death in our own country, because I'm not sure that we actually prepared for this. Let's also ensure that, at least like other countries are doing, they are cautioning the effect of this particular war to mitigate against the high transportation costs, the high rent, and the high food costs in their own country. There are countries that have rolled out CNG buses. There are countries that have also subsidized transportation to ensure that at least people move from one place to the other. What do people spend their monies on? They spend their monies on food. They spend their monies on transport. They spend their monies on their children's education. They spend their money on health. Can we at least minimize this cost? If we are not even taking everything, can we introduce insurance in all these places? These four that I just mentioned. That way, then you don't even need anybody to give you money again. If Pamdunquis, I'm sure that my son and daughter will go to school and they wouldn't pay a dime. What else do I need money for? I'm sure that I can leave my vehicle anytime I get to my junction. Apologies to those that are staying in Lagos, where you can be at the junction in Ikorodu 4:30 a.m. and you are waiting for the BRT bus 5:30. It has not come. And when it comes, when you see crowd, you think you are seeing crowd here. When you see crowd, you think it's sardine that want to enter inside the container. That is the number of people you see around that particular vicinity. So if I'm going to be stopping at my junction, and I'm very sure that at least I'm going to see a BRT bus that will take me to my destination at 200 naira, and I will not get late to work, why do I even need the car in the first place? Is it not because I don't want to get late? If comfort will actually be what I will be provided with, what do I need the car for? That's why in the United States, in UK, rich people park their vehicles and they enter commercial buses because they are sure of the punctuality, they are sure of that time that they will actually get to their destination. Again, I get to the hospital, I'm having chest pain, I'm having ulcer, I'm having fever, I'm having typhoid, I'm having malaria. I'm sure that I wouldn't pay a dime because I'm a citizen. And every citizen should be able to benefit because we have oil. That way, patriotism will increase. That way, nationalism will increase. That way, crime rate will reduce. That way, dependency ratio will also be affected. That way, the entire people of the country will also love their country better. But in this our situation, where you are your local government, you pay for your health, you pay for your child's school fees. There are some people that, as we speak right now, their children are not in school. They love school, but they don't have the means. Some of them have resorted to going to public schools. So in that circumstance, in that situation, what choice do you give to the people? And that's why crime rate will continue to go high. I told you that I spoke to Matthias Stupid, myself and People's Prof Luke Pampe, and so he told me that he went to Côte d'Ivoire, not even the United States or even United Kingdom. He went to Côte d'Ivoire, and for 3 months he asked for their register of crime, and there was no single person in the cell for 3 months. Can that happen? I went to A Division 3 days ago for a case. I didn't even know that their own cell in A Division, you can even be seeing the detainees. If you see the number downstairs that I was looking, I said, can you just imagine this? So you could see that indeed crime rate in this part of the world is high, and it's because everybody do it yourself. It's part of our problem. You are the one that will feed yourself. You are the one that will provide security for yourself. You are the one that will clothe yourself. You are the one that will educate your children. You are the one that will pay for everything your child needs. So where exactly is the role of the government in this whole thing?
Well, let me even bring it to the ears of our listener out there. Back in the days, I don't even want to take us back to when schools were free of charge. I want to take us back to the days where once you're in a boarding school, you have your food taken care of. You have your desks taken care of. You have your mattresses taken care of. You have everything at least taken care of. What you might likely pay is just the school fees.
Yes.
But no, we got to a point where after paying your school fees, before you even go to pay that school fees, make sure you go to the food store to hand over your own grains that you are bringing from home so that they will use it to feed you in school to complement the effort of government. I have seen that in government schools. Then the days have gone. Back then, I remembered people were not asked to bring their own decks to school. And I remember very well, some people come, when they come with their decks, apart from writing their names on the decks, they chain it and lock it to the padlock. I've seen that several.
Yes.
So what is the role of government in all this? If everything will be provided for by the parents and they still pay school fees, at the end of the day, where does the money go to? That's the questions Nigerians are asking.
I'm no quiz, and this all thing boils down to our recruitment process. We are in that particular year that leads to the next election. So we should be able to at least start forming the fulcrum of what we want in 2027.
Yeah.
Because what we want in 2027 starts by our plan for 2027.
Sure.
And 2026 is that year that serves as the elixir to that 2027 that we've been talking about since 2023. And something historic, something symbolic, something very, very fundamental happened on February 18, 2026. The president signed into law the Electoral Act 2026. And this document, like it or leave it, will definitely be a reference point going into the next election. And there are key points of that document that we have not also talked about. Let me just use 2 minutes to talk about it. Because we have overflowed the issue of electronic transmission. And we also didn't tell people about some other parts of this particular electoral act that are also as important as the electronic transmission of the result. Number one, we've talked about the abolishment of the indirect primary.
Sure.
And that is also the delegate system, where you know that many delegates have actually became millionaires simply because they were fortunate to be the ones to serve as intercessor, to serve as intermediary, to serve as delegate in that particular election. Again, membership registers of political parties should be maintained digitally. And political parties must submit such a verified digital register of all members to INEC 21 days before they conduct their primary election. And indeed, this register must be name linked. So there's no how you can go and forge names like Andy Uba did during their primaries, where they bring imaginary people and claim that this is exactly the number of people that voted for them in the primary. But when the secondary election comes, these same people disappear into thin air. So only those whose names are found in that register can vote. So in this case, if you are telling us that you are adopting direct primary, if 5,000 is what you say you have in this world, and we are seeing the result with 7,000, already INEC have the right to throw away that result to say that no, this does not meet our requirement, and it is also improvised to the Electoral Act. Again, the vote buying that has become a cankerworm in this part of the world now carries 5 million naira fine and a 2-year jail term and a 10-year ban from contesting election. Now this boils down to the security. Is the security ready for this job in terms of arresting, in terms of prosecuting? Again, Beavers is now a mandatory accreditation machine. Because without that, before now, it used to be an optional thing. But now, you can never have accreditation without a Beavers. So we should be able to be educated as we go into the election. And the 2010 Electoral Act says that a presidential candidate can spend 1 billion. Today, we have increased it by 400% for a presidential candidate. So these are things that I'm sure that so many Nigerians would also want to know exactly what this new act entails and how they can also go about gravitating this particular new electoral act. Now you have stakeholders, political parties, stakeholders, INEC, stakeholders, CSOs, stakeholders, observers, stakeholders, journalists, stakeholders, security. How many have been trained so as to go in tandem with the new electoral act?
That law, I actually sympathize with those that will end up being the ad hoc staff of the electoral umpire, because whether we like it or not, if people are not satisfied with the explanation you give them, we don't pray that that chaos actually erupts, because a lot of people are hoping and waiting to go and express their franchise in 2027 to determine that indeed this is what they want or this is what they don't want. So we are saying this morning that, as Bello rightly said, make sure you go as a political party. If you want to be on the ballot, make sure you register. Even if it's 1,000 people that you have as members of your political party, that does not disqualify anybody from voting you at the end of the day. The most important thing is for you to give the accurate figures and linked with your name to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these people are actually members of your party,
Yes.
and they were the ones that actually participated in the congresses in case you decide to go for option A4.
Yes.
But if you decide on your own to go for consensus, that is not an issue.
And I can assure you that all the political parties will go for consensus.
All right.
Because how many of them would want to disgrace themselves by saying, contrary to what we had made you believe, that indeed we don't even have more than 10,000 members in the whole Just Not. Because how many of them have even registered and mobilized to register people in their various wards?
That's a big question. All right, we'll leave it there for now. Just take this story and open the phone lines for you to add your voice. 080-6464-1536 is the number to call, and 080-2971-0202 is for text messages. Appeal court fallout. Makinde Bala split over Wike peace deal. And of course, now we begin to ask ourselves the question, is it that the center can no longer hold between the so-called two last men standing in the People's Democratic Party? But some Nigerians will begin to ask questions. Is it that the governor of Oyo State probably wants to dance to the whim and caprice of the Man Friday of the president, which is Minister Nyesom Wike, and some Nigerians will begin to take their minds back to the 22nd day of January 2026, where the governor of Oyo State, Sheyi Makinde, had a closed-door meeting with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And of course, I remember very well where Bello said that the president actually asked Sheyi Makinde, I want you to help me in Oyo State, to actually do a yeoman's job for me there. But Sheyi Makinde came out to tell Nigerians and anyone who cared to listen that what they discussed was nothing but governance and national interest, not party politics. But then, national interest can be a vague statement, if you ask me, Bello, and also governance can also be a vague word until you start breaking it down. In what sense, in what context did you talk about governance and national interest? National interest could mean that, okay, let's throw away our differences and work together. Let's throw away our differences, put heads together, and see how we can actually mobilize for you, even though we're not in the same party. National interest could be that do this for me, I do this for you. Give and take. But then, whether we like it or not, Bello record has it that the Supreme Court has spoken severally. And I wish that they should follow your suggestion and advice of yesterday. Go to the Supreme Court. Let's have a document to work with going forward. Because in several cases, Ambassador MJ Abubakar Waziri versus PDP and ANO 2020 and others here, 2023, cited in legal commentary, the Supreme Court reaffirmed the principle that internal party resolution of nomination and sponsorship of sponsorship is a domestic matter, not justiciable by courts. Lawan versus PDP and others, 2022. A Federal High Court suit arising from internal party affairs was dismissed and as incompetent by lower courts, with appeal records indicating that the issue was seen as one lacking justiciability over internal party matters. Samuel Anyanwu versus Anyagu, that's the bone of contention recently I was talking about, and three others, 2025. The Supreme Court held that a dispute over who is National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party was an internal party matter, and that the lower courts lacked jurisdiction to decide. Again, they still went back to court again, and in another judgment on the same PDP secretaryship crisis, the apex court vacated lower court decisions and reaffirmed that courts should not intervene in internal leadership disputes, holding that the lower courts were bereft of jurisdiction. Bello, in most of these cases, it appears that the lower courts enjoy actually causing contradictions left, right, and center. We saw what happened even after the 2023 elections, where some people at the courts decided to give the mandate of the people to people that never won election in any way, and the Supreme Court had to tutor them like probably people that are learning law 100 level, because they told them that in the first place you had no right to even listen to this case in the first place. So maybe some people are still counting on that probably they have some people that are going to do a young man's job for them going into 2027 to take away the mandate of the people after the people must have decided and give it to them in the court. But we are saying this morning, the man Anyao actually contravened the Electoral Act. You went and contested, which the law is very clear.
Yes.
Once you contest an election, you don't have any business to come back to your former position. But we saw the abracadabra that happened even in the case of Senator Godswill Akpabio. We saw the case of Ahmed Lawal, where the judiciary Machina. So we are asking the question this morning, can we get serious? Because we don't want a situation whereby it's only when some of these judges leave office then they begin to tell you that there is high corruption in the system.
In fact, part of the provision of the new Electoral Act 2026 is to the effect that courts are barred from hearing internal affairs of political parties, and a fine of 10 million naira awaits you if you decide to take that particular junction. If you decide to take your party to court on an issue that is internal, then you are susceptible to pay 10 million naira. I think we should be able to also let the entire world know that. But then, who are the people that will interpret the law? These are questions that so many Nigerians are asking. Because up to this moment, nobody can tell you how Hobi Uzodinma, who came fourth in the election, how he eventually became the governor of Imo State. Nobody can tell you how the man that is actually ruling in Bayelsa today, how he became the governor, is only the Supreme Court that can also explain, because you had a David Leon that was already rehearsing 24 hours before his ascension to that particular throne. He was rehearsing how he was going to be marching. He was rehearsing how he would be in the open vehicle. He was rehearsing how to receive salute. And that was exactly where he got the news that he cannot be the governor of that state. And the next election, one would have thought that they would even allow him, because at least he might have also suffered trauma. They should be able to allow him. But to me, Priscilla, who thought that indeed he is the man Friday, he is the only APC man that people love in Bayelsa, still snatched the ticket away from the same David Leon. Now, how do you explain how Bashir Machina, who contested for Yobe senatorial elections, there was nothing like Ahmed Lawan on the ballot
at all?
Ahmed Lawan said he wanted to be the president of Nigeria,
and he went to contest.
He went to buy the 400 million naira, only to lose. He was wotoporously defeated.
I hope it's in the dictionary.
Wotoporously, the way Chelsea that say, give us PSG, we are the world champion. They were wotoporously disgraced. That was exactly what they did to Ahmed Lawan during that particular primary. Then you want to eat your cake and have it. Machina already won his election. Then you went, and that was where I had a problem with the APC chairman then, the former governor of Nasarawa State.
Yeah.
Who was threatening not Ahmed Lawan, but he was threatening Machina for standing his ground, and they were threatening Machina with expulsion. I said, like, seriously?
Welcome to Nigeria.
We saw the senatorial primary. Ahmed Lawan was not on the ballot. So through which of the windows? Because it can never be a door. Through which of the windows is he coming back to lay claim to that same senatorial seat? And they went straight to the appeal court. Appeal court said, Machina, you are the candidate. On getting to the Supreme Court, how did magic happened? I'm sure magic. Even 100 level law students in University of Jos will be wondering how that particular case actually got to that level, that someone that did not participate in the primary eventually is the one that is benefiting. After Machina said, that resignation letter they said I wrote, it's not my signature. It was forged. So is it possible for me to sign and resign from being a senator that as at that time you already know that APC must win? So what will be his gain? What will be, for example, his motivation to resign? When he has come out to say, I didn't resign, and that's not my handwriting. But the Supreme Court eventually gave it to who? Ahmed Lawan.
Okay, so I don't know. This is Nigeria.
This is Nigeria.
Welcome to Nigeria.
Exactly.
That's the most time will permit us to take, but then Bello, before we wrap up.
Amnon Poison in December 2023, NAF accidentally killed 85 Nigerian civilians during a religious event And you remember also in Cureent Affarirs in January 2025, we also had a military airstrike in Sokoto. But when confronted with these facts, the spokesperson to the president
said he's not aware.
Said he's not aware.
And when the man gave him figures, he said, "Thank you for reminding me."
So whatever we're doing today, let's know that they will form the fulcrum of the history of ourselves, not other person, of ourselves tomorrow. Let's be rational. Let's be logical. Let's be scientific. Let's be pious. Let's uphold integrity. Let's be truthful. And the truth shall set us free. You remember the former spokesperson of Yar'Adua?
Yeah.
When they were confronted between the devil and the deep blue sea, he said, "I don't know anything about the president." They said, "But you are the spokesperson." He said, "I have not seen the president.
I will not lie."
And I will not lie. Another spokesperson will have lied that as at that time, the likes of the First Lady, the likes of Tanimu, are telling Nigerians that there's nothing wrong with the president.
He was very okay. He even signed a budget.
Just imagine.
All right, that's the much time will permit us to take this morning. David Friday, thank you for producing us. Fine boy journalist Ugolistic, thank you for actually always being there to ensure that you take this message to the entire world for them to watch and listen and make sense out of it. My name is Pam Dunquiz. Keep listening to this station. That's the only station authorized to make you happy. Hope to see you at the other side of sunrise tomorrow. Next is going to be the news at noon. Bye-bye.